Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the reboot of Remove from Play. We got our first guest here, Gregulator. How's it going, Greg?
Yo, what's up, Rai? Thank you for having me. Hello,
For sure. This has been a
everybody.
long time coming. We've been trying to set
I
this up
know
for a while.
you've been trying to snatch me for one of these shows for as long as I can remember, but it's
Yeah,
good to be here.
for sure, for sure. Today we're going to be doing Ancient Gears, which one of your favorite decks, I do believe.
It is. I am the Ancient Gear fanboy, DLM deck expert for nearly a year with the deck. It's something that I hold very dear to my heart, and it was my first foray into the competitive scene, being Ancient Gear pilot, playing it in Clan Wars, Team Wars, and overall had a great run and experience with the deck, and I'm here to talk about that with you.
Yeah, for sure. So, for a brief kind of introduction to the deck for people who might not be familiar with the Duel Links version of Ancient Gear, we started when GX came out. We got Crowler, who had this amazing skill that let him start with the castle on the board, which is amazing because then your opponent plays one card, immediately contribute it, and summon that dog Ancient Gear thing. But it wasn't really meta relevant until the structure deck came out. And then as soon as that structure deck came out, the cards that was added and you could get for just paying a low cost to enter was amazing for the competitive scene, from Team War, Clan War to just regular play in general. Ancient Gear really dominated for a very, very long time. So, Greg, when did you come into the picture with AG?
Yeah, thank you. Well, my introduction with Ancient Gear was the structure deck. It was Ancient Gear Awakening. It was released February 2019. I actually remember when it dropped. It was the halftime during the Super Bowl. So
Was it
I
really?
actually, it was. It dropped in the middle in the middle of halftime for the Super Bowl, and I went pulled out my phone and I bought the structure deck, and I was like, oh my god, I can't wait to play this. Um, and so anyhow, that's when it was released, very long time ago, and one of the main strengths of the Ancient Gear deck is its ability to dominate the battle phase. It might be hard to fathom right now, but back in 2019, the battle phase was very still relevant for Duel Links. It still kind of is to a degree, but less so now because there's less interruptions, less destruction in your main phase and whatnot. But Ancient Gear really dominated in a meta where Wall of Disruption, Floodgate Trap Hole, those types of cards were relevant. Ancient Gear really dominated and made its mark known very, very fast. Um, yeah, and so I picked up the deck. It was one of the best pair decks to get with Kokai Miru for like a Team Wars type format, because it had a strong Buster Blader matchup, and that's what Kokai Miru was weak to. So that's one of my main reasons for buying the deck. But it was also really, really cheap. It's very accessible for people just starting out or who didn't have a lot of cards in their collection. You could just buy the structure deck 2 times and then use 1,000 gems, and you had the entire core of the Ancient Gear deck. And all you needed at the time was Galaxy Cyclone to make your deck a lot better, and Spirit Karibo. So it was overall really very good deck for someone who was introductory to competitive Duel Links at the
There you
time.
go. What card specifically made it go? Because obviously AG was around for a while. They had their boss monster and I guess Ancient Golem at the time, which
Hmm.
wasn't crazy good, but it's all right. But what
Yeah,
what in the structure deck specifically made that deck go from pretty much irrelevant to tier one for so long?
yeah, actually, definitely. It was a combination of, I'm going to say, Ancient Gear Wyvern coupled with Reactor Dragon, but also the focus of the metagame at the time. Let's start by looking at Ancient Gear Wyvern if you want to pull that up on your stream.
Yeah.
Ancient Gear Wyvern's a +1. What it does is that on summon, it's allowed special or normal. It's allowed to search through your deck for any type of Ancient Gear card, which is really really versatile. That means you could add a spell or trap, or you could add a monster. And the boss monster introduced in the deck is Ancient Gear Reactor Dragon, which at the time had a very incredible effect that when it attacks, it negates monster effect activations, but also ignores the activations of spells and traps on attack declaration. And at the end of the battle, at the end of the damage step, you're allowed to pop any spell or trap on the field, which is insane because a lot of times decks relied on cards like Wall of Disruption. They relied on Mirror Wall, which you would have to shotgun before a Reactor Dragon attacked. In order to help assist in the battle phase that way, so it made those a lot of different cards irrelevant. Also, floating effects from like Six Samurai Fuma, the the Gale Lizard, those type of cards, those were all made irrelevant by Ancient Gear Reactor Dragon. So Reactor Dragon itself, along with Wyvern to an extent, because Wyvern also does monster effects but not spells and traps. Uh, those two key features allowed Ancient Gears to gain a lot of advantage and had a step ahead of the metagame at the time when they were first introduced. And the way you would get these monsters out onto the field very quickly was two things. One, the spells and traps introduced in an Ancient Gear in the structure deck. First being Gear Town. I'm sure we all know about Gear Town. Gear Town, when it's destroyed, you're allowed to summon an Ancient Gear monster from the deck, ignoring its summoning condition. That last part's not too relevant for these monsters that we normally run, but for other versions in the future, it can be. And so that's why you see a lot of cards like Galaxy Cyclone, Double Cyclone paired with Gear Town, because they not only help protect your Ancient Gears from being disrupted by Floodgate Trap Hole, but they also assist you in summoning them onto your board. So they're great combo pieces for this deck in particular. And also the skill Middle Age Mechs allows you to start the duel with Ancient Gear Castle on the field. And so Ancient Gear Castle on its own, it's not a card you really want to include in your deck. It's very bricky, it's unreliable when you want to draw it, and it's very, very slow. But when you get to start the duel with Ancient Gear Castle on the field, that's incredible, because what you can do is just normal summon Wyvern and you can search for a Reactor Dragon. And on your following turn, you threaten a Reactor Dragon very fast. Your opponent has to either not normal summon and risk you having a Gear Town plus tribute for your reactor, or they summon and they have to find a way to disrupt that summon, which can be very difficult with another card that was introduced in the Ancient Gear structure deck, Ancient Gear Fortress, because Ancient Gear Fortress prevents your opponent from targeting Ancient Gear monsters the turn they are summoned. That's incredible, because think of like Molehu, Paleozoic Canadia, those types of cards that target and attack, or yeah, they target. This card makes Ancient Gears immune to that destruction or that targeting, and well, destruction as well, which is insane at the time period that this was released. So these features all together combined really made Ancient Gears super relevant. They were able to beat many, many rogue decks. This was known as like the gatekeeper of the metagame. If your deck could not beat Ancient Gears, it was not relevant, not important at all to the metagame at the time.
There you go. And they always, the moment you thought AGs were out of the meta, they'd always like shoot back. I remember when Subterror came out, everyone was like, "Oh, this deck's unstoppable. Like, there's no way. We have to nerf, Final Battle. Like, it's got to be limited immediately." And then people were like, "Wait, just play Ancient Gear. Just play Ancient Gear. What's the big problem?"
Yeah.
you know?
That's a good point. One thing about the strength of Ancient Gears is that anytime back row dominated decks rose atop to the metagame, Ancient Gears always served as like a check or some type of balance to like gatekeeper guard versus those types of decks. Initially it was Buster Blader, which was like a floodgate, you can't play Yu-Gi-Oh type deck because of DNA surgery. Ancient Gears, with cards like Double Cyclone, Breaker the Magical Warrior, Galaxy Cyclone, they had a naturally really good matchup against Ancient Buster Blader. Amazonis, that's a different story, but Amazonis Ancient Gear, that was a bit more even, but that was like Amazon was like the only like back row deck I could think of right now that actually stood a chance against Ancient Gears, and that's because of Amazonis Onslaught being able to not be ignored by Reactor Dragon, because it reactors effect. This is a really like nuanced um, rule of Yu-Gi-Oh, but Ancient Gear Reactor Dragon, when it attacks, it prevents spells and traps from activating. But because Amazona's Onslaught is a continuous effect, it doesn't need to activate. Once its condition is met, it will just banish the monster. And that's why Amazonas was one of the only control decks that actually was able to be viable against Ancient Gears, because it was very persistent to Reactor Dragon in its effect.
Yeah. So take us kind of through the timeline. So the structure deck comes out. You're watching the Super Bowl halftime. You buy the structure deck. What were your initial thoughts? Did you immediately say this is gonna break Ancient Gear? I'm gonna write up a guide. When did the guide come into play? What were like the initial reactions?
Yeah. Okay. So, I first of all, I needed a deck for to play, and Ancient Gears actually was my very first deck with the Crowler event on GX release. That's when I got really into the game, or started to. I farmed the Crowler event. It was the first event I ever farmed. Played old school Ancient Gear, Sergeant Electro,
Oh
Super
baby,
Rush.
Sergeant Electro,
Yeah,
king of the
that was
meta.
yep, that was back when I started. So when the update came out and Ancient Gear stuff was released, I was like, oh my god, I need this right away. So I bought it, and it was very cheap, only $10, I think, or 11 or whatever it was. And so I actually played a hybrid because you know me, I'm a memer.
Mm.
I actually initially started off with a hybrid build with Mecha Phantom Beasts at this time. Uh, so I played like Tether Wolf, Machine Control. Pulse Mines wasn't a card that you had to worry about too much. Um, and so Ancient Gear came at a time where Kokai Miru was really dominant in the meta, and it had a pretty bad matchup against Kokai. So you had to build your Ancient Gear decks to beat Kokai Miru. And that's where Buster Blader came in and it knocked out all of the Kokai Miru. And so that's where we had this little triangle format for. And one of my main motivations for writing the Ancient Gear Guide was I really wanted to understand Yu-Gi-Oh! So it was one of my first projects to really get in, analyze all the matchups. Uh, my first introduction to learning card interactions and whatnot. And through asking my team at the time, Animal Plays, my boys, and also people like Terry and Jonesy,
Shout out to
I
the
was able
boys.
to come up with probably one of the better guides at the time for deck experts. So I was really proud of that effort. It was just like a little crowning of I'm growing up in terms of being a competitive player.
There you go.
And so that's what I really liked about Ancient Gear. So that's where the tie is to my heart. I like machine decks as well. Like anytime a machine comes out, I'm like, I have to look at it. I don't know. I just like them. I just like it for some
Were
reason.
you a fan of the what is it, the Machinas or whatever that came out?
No, that's doo doo.
That was okay. Well, there you go. Not all machines are equal.
Not all
Uh,
machines are created equal.
so kind of take us through the time frame of like competitive AG. So
Yeah,
you get the structure deck, you play a meme deck, you come
yeah.
out. You know
We
what
find
decks come
out
out?
yeah, we find out learning at the time period that that triangle meta was finally developing. The Buster Blader, the Kokamiru, the Ancient Gear. And so the only other decks that could compete at the time were Vampires and Amazonas. Those were the only two decks like in that small little format that were able to stand a chance that weren't directly involved in that format just because those are very like they're kind of like the Shiranui today. They don't have great matchups versus anything. They also don't have bad matchups versus anything either. And so it was that small meta developing at the time, and that's when Ancient Gear started getting um, the reputation for being overrated because not a lot of people were able to win events. One, because Kokai Miru was so prominent, and two, the deck itself was very inconsistent. Like if you built your deck um, to go all out, balls to the wall, you have heavy double cyclone, heavy breaker, the magical warrior, um, and you don't open that wyvern, you could set yourself up for trouble because you could just get OTK'd by Kokai very, very fast. So there's that time period, I would say between February and April 2019, where Ancient Gear decks are still struggling to find their identity or a balance between being able to control the board, and also OTK and swing over everything. And so I would say prior okay, so after a while, Maximus and Iron Core got hit on the ban list, and as we just discussed, that was the main check to both Ancient Gears. Dinosaurs also released. This is around the time Survival's End was introduced into the meta, and so we had an MCS where in March of 2019, those two were considered the dominant decks of the time, and what ended up happening is that Kokamiru really wasn't as dead as people thought, and that deck won the MCS. But a lot of people started siding against Ancient Gear. Soulmeister we had emerged as a very, very good way to slow down because you could stop the graveyard effects from Fortress and Gear Town activating in the grave, assuming it's not in the damage step, of course. Um, it was just a very, very strong tech choice at the time. And Ancient Gears was really a deck that anytime it became the top dog, the big dog in the meta, it was always shot down. It's like you have a little brother who like does something really, really cool. They think they're all good, and you just push them back down.
Nice, nice.
Kind of how, yeah, that's how Ancient Gears was pretty much. So anyhow,
So
uh,
what were kind of the struggles? Like we talked about like the bricking against the Kokai Miru. Um, what kind
well,
of made them
yeah,
struggle? Like what was the start of the struggle? Because like I said, they fluctuated through the meta a whole bunch of times.
yeah. Yeah, so I would say when the meta is very fast and can OTK in one turn, and fight through a single disruption, I think that's when Ancient Gear is at its worst. When things are really, really slow and you don't have to fear getting OTK'd very fast, Ancient and everything is like back row centric. That's when Ancient Gear shines. So let's fast forward to the introduction of Six Samurai. Uh, that was a very big deal because Ancient Gears struggled a lot to deal with a spell and trap negation. So you saw builds shift to playing a lot more quick play spells like Double Cyclone and Twister specifically in order to get around and act as a disruption against like Dojo, stopping a Fuma from coming out, or United, and but also finding a way to like you play Fortress, Shein negates, you chain Twister, destroy your Fortress, now you have an Ancient Gear on the field. Ways to fight through those types of negations and just steamroll because, uh, dual wheel doesn't matter. You have a Fortress protecting your reactor. You cheated it out with all your quick play spells. And so that's how Ancient Gear was able to push through. I think I sent you a list. It is deck number 3. This got top 16 in the tier 0 MCS.
All right.
It was made by Autumn Leaf. We had talked.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is the list that I felt was the strongest in the to just ever exist. Basically, this I think is peak Ancient Gear. What's very strong about this list in particular is, like I mentioned to you earlier, when decks are very very fast, they are able to beat Ancient Gears. So what you need to do is you need to play cards that slow down your opponent. And that's where Paleozoic Canadia was just a very strong card and smart choice by Tenma for this list. Because what Canadia would do is that it would flip down, going first, it would flip down Fuma. So it would stop your opponent from getting to Xian to begin with. It stopped Kokai Miru monsters because they are all ignition effects. So you just flip them down, they don't do anything. And so what that did is that it stalled and buy time so you could normal summon your reactor and just, beat over it that way. Another thing to note is that Canada put monsters into defense. Not a lot of things in the metagame were small, had bigger than 3,000 defense at the time. Think of Maximus, that has 2,500 defense. Sheen has 1,400 defense. All the vampires have very small Ds. Dinosaurs, who cares?
Yeah, I don't think
So
anything had good defense back then.
yeah, and so that's why Canadia was just a very strong choice because anything that was bigger than Ancient Gear, Reactor Dragon, or Tide, like Blue Eyes White Dragon, for example, would get flipped down and you just run over it. And then you cascade and you snowball an advantage that way because then you destroy all of their back row, and that's how the combo starts off. So I think Ancient Gear decks started to really materialize in success when they adopted builds like this. And what you would see in future builds is that people would even cut down on Breaker and Double Cyclone enemy controller as well and play extra back row. That's when you started seeing triple Floodgate, triple Canadia, maybe one Breaker, and then you would side into extra back row hate as you needed because Ancient Gear saw the most success when you can get that Wyvern, open it, normal summon, do your searching, and then just slow down your opponent. That's really how I felt like Ancient Gear should have been played, and this is just the prime example, the godfather of them all. That's why I like that deck.
There you go. Pretty
Yeah,
pretty clean list too. Enemy
yeah,
controller has always been like a huge AG card too. Is there any
yeah.
specific reason for that?
There is actually. The reason why a lot of people choose to play enemy controller over something like TTH or in future editions World Legacy Clash is because um, Ancient Gears, as you know, you cannot once you declare an attack, your opponent cannot respond with activated effects. So they can't respond with a Karibo, they can't respond with a monster or spell or trap like effect. So what you could do is that you could swing if they had two monsters on the board, you had two reactors or a reactor and a gear town, swing, kill one, pop your gear town. They cannot floodgate your summon because it's damage step and those types of cards can't respond to a summon in the damage step. Then you get to attack with your second reactor dragon, and your opponent can't respond again because another reactor dragon has attacked. Then you use enemy controller, tribute off your reactor that attacked, steal their second monster, and that's usually lethal. Just from those two big beefy boys. So that's why Ancient Gear saw a lot of success against a lot of decks playing enemy controller. Like even with like a Shein, like what you could do that you could just if they let you, this rarely happened against good 6-stand players, but you would attack with Wyvern. They can't negate any spell or traps. You could econ it into defense position, or you could econ take with the second monster, like, and then now you have a Shein on your side of the field, and then you swing with your Wyvern or your Reactor. Both of those monsters, they share that effect. So that's why Econ was what I consider to be always the best semi-limit of choice. Especially because like you could always get special summons with this deck, or you were able to do it semi-consistently, so you could always have your fodder to take and just
Right.
swing for game.
Okay. So we kind of passed through the 6 am meta a little bit. Um, Correct me if I'm wrong. This is like kind of when Blue Eyes and Red Eyes and Subterra kind of start coming up, right? Or I guess we had Neos and
Yeah.
stuff
So
first.
Neos came out. Ancient Gears had a good Neos matchup, but now we're getting into that really good the summer of 2019 meta, where basically every deck was good.
Hell
Uh,
yeah.
we had that was people look really fondly back on that meta. We had Subterror, um, Red Eyes, as you mentioned, Blue Eyes. Then we had Triamid come out and Magnet Warriors. And so we had another deck, Triamid, that's a back row deck that Ancient Gear did pretty well against, depending on who you ask. And then Magnet's a deck that would kind of check because of Berserkion and all of their floating. Um, and so Ancient Gear's plate continued to be a meta relevant deck throughout the entire summer of 2019. And it was really only checked by spellbooks, uh, Magnet Warriors, I would say Kokai to an extent, because it wasn't that common. Six Samurai, um, yeah. So it was a very strong deck. It competed and it was really relevant until the death of AG.
Yeah, so
So
that was
Avalanche,
pretty much the peak of AG, right? Like what was Spellbook the worst matchup? I'm assuming because Silent Magician destroy your
yeah,
fortress.
exactly. Spellbook was one of the worst matchups because it negated a spell, um, and you couldn't gain any advantage off destruction stuff. But also, Silent Magician level 8 was just incredibly hard to deal with. They would get a 2000 Silent Magician, swing into your Wyvern, and then they would float into a 3500 beater that your enemy controller doesn't work on. And so that's what was super frustrating. And if you played Floodgate at the time, you would Floodgate a spellcaster, they distribute over it for Silent Magician, Floodgate that, another Silent Magician comes out. So that deck was super resilient. Not only that, but like Spellbook of Fate did not target, so they could let you do your whole combo if they had a Fate, banish a reactor, and now it's gone. You can't bring it back from the graveyard because it's banished. So Spellbooks is always considered one of the harder matchups. Actually, I think there's an MCS in that summer that Ancient Gears won, ironically, against Spellbooks, because it utilized cards like Drowning Mirror Force.
I remember that.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then wasn't
it was
was it Casey Cup where drowning really got huge, or was it a meta weekly? Because drowning Mirror Force, people were going into a whole thing where we don't want to pop any face down cards because it could be the fortress and they could be baiting you, and then all of a sudden it's it's a drowning Mirror Force and they just lose their whole the whole field, and then you bring out your reactor
yep,
next turn and swing for game.
exactly. So Drowning Mirror Force evolved into a really strong meta choice, and I would say during that summer, you take a build like 10 Muz, and you would just see people tech into Drowning Mirror Force over it, and then they play Floodgate Trample on the side deck for the mirror match
That's how you do it.
because Drowning doesn't work
Yeah,
against AG.
that would be awkward.
Yeah,
Yeah, so you kind of mentioned it a little bit there, the death of AG. I think a lot of decks kind of died at the same time because of a certain deck, but tell
oh
us a little
yeah,
bit about the death of AG. What how how
oh
how did
yeah,
the process go down?
yeah. So I would say AG started to, along with plenty of other decks. This isn't just Ancient Gears. Really started to struggle in September of 2019 when Dark Lords were introduced into the metagame.
Oh baby.
Now, I don't have to talk much about Dark Lords, but Dark Lords were big body monsters that were easily able to put out bigger beaters and did not play back row. So the main strength of Ancient Gears didn't really matter against Dark Lords. Reactor Dragon's effect could constantly be negated, and Fortress could not protect against it because the Sanctified Dark Lord does not target. So you could never gain enough advantage, and Dark Lords would just rebuild their board after you killed one monster. Desire would just get rid of stuff, and it became really, really difficult for not just Ancient Gears but multiple decks to take down the behemoth that was the Tier Zero Dark Lords, and that's kind of where you see the decline of the metagame in itself because it was deleted, and
Oh
also
boy.
Ancient Gears as a deck.
I remember that day. I mean, I think every remove from play video we've done so far, the decks that we've had featured, when we talk about the death, it's like, oh yeah, Dark Lords came out.
Yeah, sad.
So
But I think it's okay.
Dark Lords are not very relevant right now, though. Is the meta just too fast? Are the other decks that are able to defeat Dark Lords just that much scarier? And the meta's too fast for
They
AG, or what's
that's
up
a
with
very
that?
good question. Let's talk about the decks that we have in the metagame right now. So we have Shiranui. Uh, that's a deck that is very resilient to one flip down card. Because as you know, the all the Shiranuis they synchro from the graveyard. They pop without targeting, so that's insane. So like the level 8, he can banish the level 6 Squire Saga. I think no, Samurai Saga. He banishes Samurai Saga. That's lethal over an attack position. Ancient Gear Wyvern. Um, Cosmic Cyclone is everywhere. A lot of decks play Cosmic Cyclone because of Dark Magician, and so that makes it very difficult for Ancient Gear to combo off. Um, Thunder Dragons don't even play back row, and Levianeer just kills everything. Uh, Cyber Dragons, you destroy their cards, and that gains them advantage. Like if you destroy Overflow, they search for another trap, or they search for the fusion spell. So that's scary. Um, Mass Heroes, they can Trinity Crush you, and they can attack directly with Anki like they used to. Um, and also Mass Hero Blast can bounce spells and traps back to the hand. Let's see, what else am I missing? Crystron's, Amatrix. The good thing about Ancient Gears is that you can stop them from floating, but if that assumes you could like get an attack off on them because Amatrix floats before you declare the attack, or the Citry makes the Amatrix and then they do all their popping and stuff and banish you with Quarion. So that's difficult. I'd say Dark Magician's your best matchup, but even in the Dark Magician matchup, like if you can't take out the circle, like you're very vulnerable to a single banish, especially in this combo, like in this deck. Like a single banish, it's like the Silent Magician matchup. A banish at the right time just stops your combo, and then they have a spell and trap negate like Six Samurai. So your best matchup isn't even really that good. And then Black Wings, well, Chidori you can't even beat without Econ. So
Oh, that's right. You
why
can't
even try?
even be.
You
That's
can't even beat.
unfortunate.
Yeah, that's another thing. You can't beat over anything that's bigger than 3,000. Luckily, we don't have a lot of that in the meta, but it's also difficult to get going. The combination of back row, nobody playing it, Cosmic Cyclone, even Element Sabers. Like you make Magellanica, and then what do?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
rough.
in defense, and how do you get over that?
Right. So so yeah, obviously the deck's dead. Do you think there is hope in the current kind of card pool? Do you think a ban list would bring AG back, or at this point is it just we need support for this archetype
That's
to be relevant
that's
again?
a very good question. There is no card currently semi-limited by that hits Ancient Gears directly. So there's nothing that could come off the ban list. And because of the strength of decks that we have and that are not even released, I don't feel like if we come back to a meta where our current Ancient Gear card pool is meta relevant, then we've gone so backwards in terms of a meta game that I think the game would be in a very awful spot. I like the direction the game is going, even if that means Ancient Gears are dead. So that's unfortunate. But there is hope in the future for Ancient Gear support. We have a fusion variant of the deck. Lots of Ancient Gear monsters that could have, especially now that once we've gone Purgatrio, I thought a lot of these cards were unfair, and they are, but we have Purgatrio, so why not this stuff?
Right.
Stuff cards like Megaton Golem, your opponent can't even activate spells or traps, and then like if you fusion summon then you get to attack so many times, and like that's disgusting. Like if you asked me months ago if we could get Megaton and it would make sense, then I'd be like no, because that's unfair. But then we have Purgatrio and we have a lot of other unfair stuff, so it all depends on what Konami wants to release. Ancient Gear Fusion, the spell card, is also super dumb. They have another card that can, I believe it is called, um it's a card, it's an Ancient Gear card that can be searched by Wyvern, and it can destroy your spell and traps and summon from the deck. Ancient Gear Catapult, you requires no monsters to activate, so it's an insane card. um yeah, so that's there. That's There's some support, but overall, I would just see that I think at best it would be a rogue deck, rogue OTK deck, maybe. It also depends on the meta game at the time. You know, a lot
Right.
of things can be relevant at a certain period. Maybe Ancient Gears, with this future support, would have a place in a future metagame, but that's just speculation. But there are powerful cards that could be released.
Okay.
But if they
Okay.
are, well, people would hate it probably, kind of like they hate Purg.
Yeah, Berg is not good.
He's a bad boy.
In so do you still regularly play Ancient Gear? Do you cog with it, or are you kind of putting it kind of on the side until newer
Yeah,
cards kind of come into place with it? What's where are you playing?
yeah.
Is
So my favorite meme, like I have a soft spot for meme decks. Um, I don't really have a lot of time to play meme decks these days, but when you asked me to, you know, talk about Ancient Gears, I had to bring it back because I still like the deck. I had a lot of fun with it. And so when Invoked came out, there was a one small wave of spell and trap support called Ancient Gear Reborn. It says if you, I don't, maybe you could pull it up on your screen,
yeah, actually.
but Ancient Gear Reborn says, excuse me, sorry, when there is no monster on the field, it's Call of the Haunted. You get to special summon an Ancient Gear from your deck. So, I mean, sorry, from your graveyard, not your deck. That'd be insane.
Yeah, it'd
But
be nuts.
yeah. And so this is really good because you could special summon Wyvern and get another search off. So you plus off of Wyvern. You could also, and if it gets destroyed, you Wyvern into Wyvern on your turn. On your opponent's turn, Wyvern 1, on then your turn, Wyvern 2. So you could get both Fortress and a Reactor if you want, which is really, really nice. But one thing that I noticed is that this requires a graveyard setup, which Ancient Gears weren't very good at doing. So I cooked up just for this show my latest Ancient Gear deck list, and
Oh
I had
boy.
so much fun playing this today that I had just been telling everybody about it because I surprised myself and I had a blast. If you want to pull that up on your stream, I utilized the latest support, the Lightsworn support, to help me toolbox and solve some of the Ancient Gear problems that we have in the day currently. So this is my current iteration. This is, I will state now, this is not a competitive uh, meta build, but this is a
Here
deck
to
that
here. This is winning MCS.
you can get King of Games with this deck. I just did it today on May 5th, 5 days into the season. Mostly because the ladder is very, very bad. So you guys watching at home can take a deck like this and get King of Games because the ladder sucks.
There
um,
you go.
but yeah, so this build basically utilizes the Lightsworn engine to fill up your graveyard to make your Ancient Gear Reborns live. And if you're or you have the
Lie again.
Lightsworn cards, yeah,
It's like
sorry.
it's okay. It's okay. Just say that last thing
Yeah.
one more.
Yeah. So if you don't have Ancient Gear Reborn with a Lightsworn card, then you definitely have Wyvern. That's how I view the deck, or you have a Karibo. And so one of the things I like about this deck is that you can mill your graveyard, uh, make a Fortune Lady Every, a Samurai Destroyer, a Zeta. Zeta is actually really important for this deck. I don't think you can see the extra deck on the screen of your Twitch chat, but making a level 7 synchro offers you some type of protection on your side of the field. So a lot of threats to Ancient Gears, like let's take a look at Chidori. Ancient Gears can't typically get rid of Chidori, but if you make a Fortune Lady Every and banish your Lumina, then you can banish the Chidori on their turn. So that's really good. Black Rose Dragon, it's a board wipe. So one thing that you can do is that if your Black Rose Dragon is Chain Link 1, you can set a fortress or a gear town, destroy it, and then you have something to go into on the following turn. So that's a play I would make a lot. Black Rose, my own spells and traps, revive, and then summon a Wyvern, and then you have game. So that's really good. Also, like the play I mentioned earlier, Wyvern into Wyvern that speeds up your combo. And then also Raikou itself is a really good defensive turn one. It's very difficult for decks to OTK through a set Raikou if they don't have spot removal. And only the meta decks play spot removal. A lot of rogue strategies or decks you'll see in King of Game on the Legend ladder don't have access to spot removal. So Raikou's a lot better versus those types of decks. So um, like I said, it's a competent list. It's not meta or super competitive at all, but I felt like this was a very fun version I wanted to experiment with, and I had a great time playing it. So
There you go.
that's isn't that really all that matters?
That
Like if
is
you're
all
not
that
playing in
matters.
a competitive tournament, you just have fun with the deck you like.
Of course. I mean, this is a video game after all.
Yeah. And
All
so
right.
I had fun.
So we're gonna have fun right now, and I just turned on my screen share in Discord so you can see what I'm doing.
Are we doing this?
We're doing this right now, one game, and you're gonna
Oh
tell
my
me
god.
what to do. You're gonna tell me what to do.
Okay. Okay.
Here you go,
I
boys.
will
This is
tell you
winning
that
MCS.
the DLM Discord, I had both Murata and Atlas play. If you, your hands are based off how good of an ancient gear player you are, because me and Murata open broken and Atlas open doo doo. So
There you
we'll
go.
find out what kind of player you are. We see a Shizu, so it doesn't really say much. A Shizu can be played with literally anything. This is a very good hand.
Oh, there you go.
One thing I'll say right away with a hand like this is that you have, if you can mill a Lightsworn, you're in a really good spot.
Okay,
Because your
okay.
Lumina needs a Lightsworn in the graveyard to do anything. And at worst, as long as you don't mill Raikou, like you have a Raikou set for to survive hopefully a turn. Okay,
Oh,
he
he
passes.
passed.
That's great. Okay.
All right, let's do
Now
this.
now we draw. Okay. To activate charge, and let's see what we mill. We
got a
have
Lightsworn.
Wyvern. Okay, that's perfect. So I would say Lumina, because we're gonna go on the aggressive. Now, because he plays No Mortal Can Resist, what I would suggest here is just making either an Fortune Lady Every or making a Zeta, depending on what type of deck you expect it to be. So yeah, normal summon the Lumina, pitch the Raiden, and summon Raiden.
Do we mill again here?
I don't think you need to, because doing extra milling, what that'll do is it will, because you milled a Galaxy Cyclone, right? Check your graveyard.
I did not.
You did not. Okay, so you could attempt to, but I don't think it's necessary. So what I would do is that I would just make a synchro of your choice.
We'll go Every, I think.
Yeah, go Every. If you go Every, go into defense and turtle up. If you go Zeta, I would attack and just lose your graveyard.
This is probably,
so now,
I don't know what it is.
Yeah, because now you have OTK for the following turn if he
Right.
chooses to do nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and then in this situation, would I just send the Galaxy Cyclone after? Oh, it's a
Okay,
Cosmo.
Cosmic Cyclone.
All right. Here comes No Mortal. Good call. Good call. Yeah, really, Cosmic Cyclone's everywhere.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why Ancient Gear's dead.
It's bad, man. How many
So
Skull Servers do we have?
we did lose our graveyard, but we didn't lose a whole lot.
Playing 5 Skull Servers, boys. We're in there.
Yeah.
He just passed.
Okay, he passes. So now we have lethal
Damn.
with just Every. So hold on, don't summon that. Don't summon that.
Okay.
So remember, your Raiden got turned into a Skull Servant.
Oh yeah.
So what I would do is that I would just put Every in attack position
Swing.
and just swing.
All right. Go in there. Oh, delay.
He's got Kyroid or Spirit Creeper.
It's not over.
It's fine.
It's not over.
It's not. But he's in a really bad spot. Actually, this is bad because now Every can't float.
Yeah, maybe Zeta was the better call. Maybe. Oh, set. Double
He's
set.
in set 2. Now you could Galaxy Cyclone his set cards. Did you see which one was the freshly drawn card?
I did not. But I have 2 Galaxy Cyclones.
It doesn't matter.
So
It doesn't matter.
we're just
get rid of both of them.
talented. We're so good, guys.
Don't flip up your Every. Just a Galaxy Cyclone first and foremost.
Okay.
So there is a delay in his standby phase. So that could mean Fiendish Chain or Cosmic Cyclone, I feel, are his set cards. Or Artifact Lancey in the hand.
Chalice.
Oh, he's going to do Chalice. Okay.
Wow.
Just let it go. Let it go.
And we just
Galaxy
Galaxy
Cyclone
one.
1.
And then we just chill?
Yeah, no, I would summon Lumina. Oh, yeah, summon Lumina. And I just poke. Because one thing that we want is that we want Lumina in the graveyard, so Every can revive herself.
Build
Now we
Econ.
did lose Raikou, and we lost an Econ and a Reborn. That's okay. He only has 3 cards, and he still has to deal with Every. And if he kills Lumina, that means Every can survive another turn. Okay, he sets 1. He sets 2. Galaxy Cyclone, the one on the far left.
Right, okay. Oh, we got Wyvern.
Oh, that's perfect. We have Wyvern. This is really, really bad for him. Now Galaxy Cyclone.
On the left.
Yep.
Out of here. Another chalice.
Another
What is he
chalice. Okay.
playing?
So now what you're gonna do is that you're gonna summon Wyvern and
Okay.
get search for Ancient Gear Fortress.
Fortress?
Yeah, Fortress. Play the Fortress.
Oh, he's out.
Yep, he's done. He's done.
I
And
wonder what he's
that's-
playing. What do you think he was playing?
I don't know. Check his deck.
All right, we'll do one
He's playing
more
some
real
type of-
duel. I was only gonna do one, but he didn't even play.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Let's see.
Let's talk about what went down though. Oh, loop.
What the?
Okay, actually, this is insane because okay, let's talk about what I said earlier. Chidori, Saber Dancer is similar to Chidori for Ancient Gears. They cannot beat over it, and not only that, they can't target it. So the Lightsworn engine provides you an out of archetype out
Oh,
to
yeah.
cards like Saber Dancer and Cat Dancer that normally you cannot deal with. So that's one of the benefits of playing this, and that was just hilarious. If he managed to get any of those out and deal with our Every, it would have just been banished. Hello, come on.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Damn.
Yeah. So now we're starting to see what this deck can do. So hopefully, let's find something a bit more competitive.
But this will be a real duel right here. Watch. Bet.
Yeah.
Playing
Hands of
Weevil.
Evil. Please.
Time to break our phones,
Please.
boys.
Oh, and another Ishizu. Okay, so this could be good.
It's the same player. Watch. Oh, I'm gonna rank
Oh,
up.
this is your rank up.
Oh
This is your rank
shit.
up.
Okay. Okay.
And you're going second.
Okay.
Okay, this is a very standard hand. Lumina can be really good if you top deck a charge
Okay. Okay.
and you mill a Lightsworn. So he's in a normal. He's in a set one.
Yeah, Crow Valley.
Oh, you're playing against Gravekeepers. Okay.
How's this gonna
So-
work out?
This is interesting because Gravekeep, yeah, that thing has 2,000 defense. So it's gonna be really difficult.
Oh, he's got the
Is that-
Necro Valley.
He's not Necro Valley. Okay. So let's see what you draw. Okay,
Wyvern.
Wyvern. So this is what I would do: set enemy controller, and then now I would normal summon a Wyvern and search for Reactor Dragon
Okay. Okay.
because
the
you want to
reactor's
apply
gonna carry the
you,
shit out
yeah,
of us.
you want Reactor because you have both Gear Town and a Reactor. So even if he deals with your Wyvern,
Mhm.
you're okay. So now what I would do is that I would attack with Wyvern into that set monster.
Because he doesn't activate his
Because-
effect.
Well, because Gravekeepers are notorious for playing a lot of flips like that thing. So you're okay against that. And now, if he pulls out some bullshit, okay, that's fine.
Okay.
He's
Okay.
gonna set one. Okay, don't do anything. Yeah, don't do anything. Okay, now what I would do is draw. Is there a delay? No. Okay, so what I would do now is that I would activate Gear Town, just outright. Check for delay.
No delay. You floodgates.
It could be Floodgate or it could be one of those Gravekeeper traps. So one thing that you could do is that because you're not really like pressured to do anything, you could normal summon Wyvern and search for Fortress, and then on the following turn, you can. Okay, we're just gonna commit to that. That's
I
fine.
like that play. Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, this
Oh.
is a bit more patient. Yeah, see, there's a delay. That could be a Floodgate. That's fine. And so search for Fortress, and now play Fortress because you don't care. And now what you need to do is you need to successfully attack into that face down monster. It's gonna be, you're not gonna kill it, guaranteed. Because, yeah, it's 2,500 defense, but you did that to stop the Gravekeeper Spy effect from activating. That's one of the key factors of Ancient Gears. They stop monster effects from activating on attack until the end of the damage step. So Gravekeeper Spy does not get to set or special summon from the deck. And now you're in a really strong position. Okay, read that. Is that the one that tributes?
That's the one that tributes and pops. Yeah.
Okay, Econ take it. Get rid of it. You need it off of his side of the field.
I think he's
doesn't
screwed
matter.
now.
Take it. Just take it.
Yoink.
Yours.
All right.
Okay, now this is the good part.
Ooh.
Charge the Light Brigade. Ooh, this is interesting. So what I would do now is that I would. Okay, do you have lethal? 1 second. That's 2,000. Okay, you could tribute over the Wyvern
Mhm.
with Reactor, and then swing, pop your Gear Town, swing again, pop the back row with your other Reactor. Or you could pop the Necro Valley and get back the Wyvern and search a third Reactor.
What
Up
would
to
you
you.
do?
First of all, yeah, tribute for the reactor. Don't use the castle. Oh,
Oh shit.
okay.
Back
Arrow.
up, back up.
Yeah.
Hit no. Okay.
Say no.
The
Yes.
gear town. Oh, because it would still take 2. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Now
Cool.
tribute the root wyvern. If he's got a floodgate, that's the only thing you're scared of. Oh god. Please no.
Not like this.
That's floodgate. No.
Okay.
Okay. Now I'm pretty sure we just lose. Actually, we should have thought about that being a floodgate. Because had we chosen not to, actually, that's a tough thing. We need to find a way to get rid of that Necro Valley, but we don't have a way to do it.
Oh boy, should I charge with the light brigade or not?
No, because then he's just.
Because I can add Raikou, right? And then.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah, do that. But
I don't mill it.
The only hard
part... I milled it.
Yeah, I was gonna say though, like this is a deck that does have spot removal because you could tribute.
All right. Well, let's hope we don't do it. I think we're dead, right?
Yeah, we're
probably
dead.
Unlucky.
Unlucky. If that was any card but a floodgate, you absolutely stole control of the duel.
Right.
So that's just unfortunate that he
his
does
one
have
back row. Watch it be his. He only runs the one floodgate. Maybe he has no more monsters. Maybe we're in there. Maybe he pops my field spells, dude. Maybe he doesn't know what this deck does.
Yeah, that definitely happens. People don't know what the deck does. But now he is going to tribute off the recruiter, get a search.
Damn it.
Oh, that's the fusion. We're done.
I believe. Oh, what is he popping? Castle, my castle? Please, get the town.
He needs to hit the gear town.
No. It could have happened. You guys don't know.
Yeah, this is over.
Feels bad, man.
Yeah. But like I said, if that back row was any card but Floodgate, Canadia, Cosmic Cyclone, anything, we would have been fine.
Yeah, because the fortress is just targeting, right? It's not all effects.
Yeah, it'll protect against targeting and card destruction. So good. This is a good card against Stromberg because if you had a fortress up, you could not get destroyed by the effect of Golden Castle Stromberg that turned your special summoned.
There you go. Well, we got one duel where we stomped our opponent, and one where we got stomped from Necro. Who opens Necro Valley in 2020? Watch, he only has one floodgate. He actually only has one floodgate.
Okay, so let's take a look at this back row. If that back row was TTH, we were protected 100% because TTH targets and the fortress would have protected him. If that was Cosmic Cyclone, he needed to shotgun it beforehand, which he chose not to because we clearly summoned. And that's his only back. He literally only has 2 back row in his deck, and he opened them.
Feels good, man.
That is very unlucky, but
well,
it is. You know, sometimes it happens.
It works. Greg, I have one more question for you. The community wants to know: how on earth does AG beat Yubel?
Do you have my screenshot that I sent?
Yeah, where is it? Hold on, give it to me again.
Oh my god, please.
Where did that meme come from? Where did it originate from? I hear it all the time.
Because in the Ancient Gear channel, people, like just random people would come in and they would ask, how does this deck beat Yubel? And they would ask it seriously because at the time, Yubel was a deck that was common on the ladder. And so Ancient Gears really struggled to beat Yubel without Econ or TTH. And so, yeah, it was notorious for losing to Yubel, and a lot of people would shitpost and meme the deck and just go into the AG channel and ask how this deck would beat Yubel. Luckily for you, if you play the Gregulator 2020 version, this deck don't lose to Yubel. Show them the screenshot, right? Show them the screenshot.
Check it out, boys. Oh, it's too big. Hold on. We got to make it smaller.
Fuck Yubel. That
big old Yubel. Look at her.
First of all, who's playing Yubel in 2020? I guess the same people that are just
they haven't played the game in a long time. That's the people.
Pissed as fuck, and I would be too if you saw Ancient Gear and think, oh, you have an easy matchup, and then you take a look at my board, and then I'd be molding.
AG, by the way,
so hard. Yeah, this is Ancient Gear, by the way.
Feels bad, man. Man, I remember those Yubel days. Oh boy, Yubel was like one of those decks I just never had issues with because Noble Knights, they just You just win it for pop, and then you can't summon anything. There you go. Well, there you go. That's Crowler shit eating smile. Hell yeah. All right. Well, that's the end of Ancient Gears. Gregulator, thank you so much for coming. Is there any final words you want to tell people? Any shout outs, anything like that? Anything you want to plug?
I just want to say shout out to my clan TCG and my yeah, and you know everybody, all my friends, and like my CVDL team, Armageddon, and all the good community people that host tournaments and keep the game alive and giving us something to meme or shitpost or compete in. It's you know yeah, I'd like to thank all those people, and then yeah, I don't know. Anybody who still likes to play Ancient Gears for some reason, keep having fun. If it brings you joy or a smile, sometimes that's all you need to get through the day is a smile. And if Ancient Gears is going to do that, I hope it brings it to you.
There you go. And definitely check out our other videos when you guys have time. Check out our tournaments. Greg's going to enter with AG this Friday. So catch him there so he can duel you. Yeah, hope to see you guys next time. Bye, YouTube.
Goodbye.